welcome to Mikey's Video Game Madness. I guess this is another end of the year video. I don't traditionally do a top 10 games. I used to, but I don't anymore, so I'm just boiling it down to the games that I had the most fun playing this year. This year has been kind of hard for me. I haven't played video games as much as I would like to. So there's going to be some honorable mentions. Like I said, this has been a hard year. I didn't even know if I was going to make this video. I wasn't up to it. I was like, maybe I'll just wait till next year. But, you know, I soldiered through, and this is day 2 I'm working on this video. So all these people that poop out videos and demand money or complain that they don't have enough subscribers or whatever, fuck you, because if you have 1 or 2 people checking your shit out, you should be happy that somebody took the time to watch your video. And if they watched it till completion, you should even be more appreciative towards that. So I don't give a shit about what your circumstances. Like, be happy with the viewers you got, because the way YouTube's going, it's probably going to be less and less and less unless you're a major YouTuber, or if this thing even lasts forever. So to those of you who have supported my channel and continue to watch it, I know there's not many of you. Thank you so much. It's kind of funny that I'm saying this because one of my goals of this video wasn't to always pick the most obvious choices. Of course, there's going to be some obvious choices there. There's a lot of games I've enjoyed playing, but I kind of wanted to help out some of the more underdog games, or maybe not the games that you would think of being on the top of one's list. But, so there was some choices that I really struggled with on this list, so I'll do the honorable mention. So if you get bummed out about the things that I pick or don't pick on this list, you can make your own list, and then I can go on your website and tell you how stupid your choices are, because ultimately this is my opinion, my list, and how much fun I had playing these games. And honestly, it just comes down to opinion. And I hope that some of you, I can't believe the cat was sharpening her claws on the side of this chair. Man, it's been a trying day. Anyway, hopefully some of you will find some games on this list that maybe you wouldn't think of playing, that you end up playing and you really enjoy it. But I just wanted to share with you, I wasn't able to complete all the games that are going to be on the top 10 list. I completed most of them, but I played them enough where I felt like I could give an opinion. Now, the games where I didn't feel like I could give a well enough opinion are games that just didn't make the list. These are honorable mentions. These are all great games, and you might see some of these on next year's list, assuming I'm still alive by then. So Call of Duty World War II, I did beat that. That was awesome. Yeah, but I know Call of Duty is going to do well. Persona 5, I played enough of it where I feel like I can recommend it. I love the Persona games, and it's an upgrade from all those, so that's going to be, I'm sure, great. From what I've played, about 9 hours in, I think that it's a fantastic game, and that might be on next year's list, obviously. Another one that's probably going to be on next year's list, but, you know, there's a lot of good games coming out, so I can't promise anything. Prey, that's a great game. It's not like the original Prey, which is kind of a bummer, but the Prey that came out now is really cool. It's a lot like a mixture of Deus Ex and Half-Life 2, which is an awesome combination to have. Mafia 3, that almost actually made the list. I actually just got the DLC for Black Friday, although it's only Black Friday for, I guess, the people that work in retail. It's a pretty happy day for a lot of people, especially if you're doing digital downloads or anything online. Yeah, that's an awesome game. I had to pick 10 things. South Park, The Fractured Butthole. Yeah, it's funny saying it. I loved what I played of the game so far, and everything I've seen of it seems awesome. So that's great. Final Fantasy 15, not traditional Final Fantasy, more like an action RPG, but it's a very aesthetically pleasing game, and I think it's great. Resident Evil 7, it's like a first-person perspective version with the first game style of gameplay. It's kind of mixed with maybe like Outlast or one of those games where you like run and hide, like Alien Isolation, mixed with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I think it's a great game. The Evil Within 2, I've been recently playing that. You might have saw the live stream that I've done. That game seems really awesome. It seems a little bit different than the first game, where it's more, at least in the beginning, it's more of an open world. It seems great. Assassin's Creed Origins, that seems like an awesome game. More of the same, larger world, ancient Egypt. Horizon Zero Dawn, another game that I just got the DLC for. I haven't played as much as I'd like of it. It's a beautiful game. If anything, you want to show off what your PlayStation 4 Pro can do, I would definitely get Horizon Zero Dawn. But as far as the game, it's great. It mixes elements of Tomb Raider and Far Cry Primal. If you would combine those two games, it's a lot like that, with some RPG elements. Love the game that I played so far. It might end up terrible. And sounds like a silly thing to suggest, but Zen Pinball 3, I actually prefer 2. They took the 3D component out of 3, which kind of sucks, but I really love it. Those are one of those games where you have to buy your own tables. I highly recommend getting the Aliens and the Star Wars tables. Those have been the most fun for me. Obviously, you probably need to like the license somewhat, but I love Back to the Future and E.T., and I got those tables, and I still think the Star Wars and the Alien themed ones are a little bit better, and you know, those are right up there, like with some of my favorite licenses. So it depends on the table, but you can try all the tables for free. So without further ado, this game's been on a lot of people's shit lists, but you know, I personally really like it. So for number 10 on the main list of games that I've had the most fun playing, Star Wars Battlefront 2. Alright, I get it. So for number 10, I chose Star Wars Battlefront 2. I really actually enjoyed the first Star Wars Battlefront. Unfortunately, it was mostly an online game, although I will say, with the updated offline skirmish modes, it did improve the game a lot and made it a lot more fun. I played it, but unfortunately, a lot of the DLC maps all of the DLC maps actually were not available in the first game, which was kind of a bummer. So when they announced Star Wars Battlefront 2, it was like, all this stuff is coming and there's no season pass and it's awesome, and then they're like, but we'll find another way, and then they came out with these star cards or whatever, which suck. I really wish that EA, because I feel like EA is the one that's doing it, I feel like Criterion and DICE all have their hand tied behind their back, and they're forced to make not necessarily the game that they would want to make, to the point where I hear like Disney is kind of giving them shit. But yeah, the star card system's kind of lame. If they really want to progress, I feel like they need to adopt probably one of the systems from Battlefield 3 or 4. I think that works best with the game, and maybe get attachments and stuff for your gun. I know a lot of the Star Wars games come stock and standard with, or at least in the games, I'm sure in the universe you can modify your guns or whatever. I don't know too much about the expanded universe, but if they did that for a multiplayer game, I think that would work better. I have a feeling in the future they're going to drastically change stuff because they're in too much trouble. Or they're going to wait for Battlefront 3 if Disney even lets them have the license. Now, all that negativity aside, this has some of the best Star Wars battle experiences that I have experienced since probably Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast on the original Xbox and PC and GameCube, ironically enough. I think it's fantastic. If you're not a multiplayer person or a Star Wars fan, I'm not a multiplayer person, but I'm a Star Wars fan, so the multiplayer component wins me over. But if you're neither of those, this game will not win you over, because part of the appeal of this game is its license. The single player campaign is pretty awesome, but you will more than likely not enjoy it if you're not a fan of Star Wars, because the shooting is awesome and everything, but as far as the campaign goes, if you're not into Star Wars, you're gonna find better campaigns out there. But if you are into Star Wars, there's a ton of fan service and it's a great experience. I think the campaign lasted me 4 to 5 hours. I feel like it lasted as long as Call of Duty World War II, but it might have just been when I played it. Apparently December 13th, because the game kind of stops like right when the New Order takes place, or the New Order is being developed, which if you're not familiar with the sequel trilogy, that's like what the Empire basically turns into. So it stops there December 13th. More campaign levels will be added, so I know a lot of people are complaining about how short the campaign is, and I think part of the reason why they're holding off on that, because I have a feeling it contains spoilers from the new Last Jedi movie that's coming out of this recording. So yeah, the spaceship battles online are amazing. Offline in the campaign, all that stuff is really good. Unfortunately, the arcade mode in single player is kind of lame right now. I really hope that DICE rectifies that and adds some kind of skirmish mode or something like that, like they did in the first game. I feel like that should have came standard and they should have learned their lesson, but I guess they feel like since they added a campaign that that's going to make it better. But overall, this list is going by how much fun I've had with a particular title, and overlooking everything and just focusing on the amount of fun that I've had, Star Wars Battlefront 2 is number 10 for sure, and I highly recommend it if you're a Star Wars fan and you don't mind playing online. And keep your fingers crossed that DICE and EA work through the trifling aspects of this. I don't really care too much. Let me just put it out there, like, you can win without having any star cards, but it is nicer when you haven't, and it's kind of lame that the way you progress relies on basically a slot machine, and you have to spend a decent amount of time to even get the opportunity to run that slot machine. So a leveling up system for a full price game similar to Battlefield 3 or 4, which are games that I'm familiar with. I don't know about the ones that came before that, where you level up and you get gun attachments and stuff like that based on your class and what you're leveling up in. I think that would work way better. So hopefully they get their shit together, because underneath that crusty layer shit is a fantastic game with a lot of potential, and I hope they continue to work on it. They say they are, fingers crossed. But I'm putting Battlefront 2 as number 10. I know that's a super controversial choice, but it's a beautiful game, and it helps me relive some of these Star Wars moments that I probably imagined playing with my toys back in the day. My Star Wars toys, to be more specific. I know, but that's just what I think about that game. Anyway, For number 9, Injustice 2. So for number 9, I picked Injustice 2. Much like all of NetherRealm Studios games, this just is packed full of content, especially for a fighting game. Even though this has DLC, that's like a bonus. There are so many modes in this game, and it's an introduction to a lot of the lesser known DC characters, as well as your favorite ones, and the facial animations and the imagination that goes into this game, and the spectacle, and the fighting system is easy to pick up, hard to master, but not like Street Fighter hard to master. Like, all the moves are super simple, and it's just great. It has an RPG aspect where you actually can get armor and stuff like that, and not only customize the way your characters look, but it also helps their stats. And it's a great example maybe that Star Wars Battlefront 2 could have used, where the stuff that you get, even though you have like these sort of like loot box things, but you get a ton of them all the time for just playing the game casually. There's always tournaments going on, but you also can play the game offline. There's a story mode, but then each individual character actually has their own individual storyline as well. So if you beat beat the game with an individual character separately without playing the story mode, they actually have individual endings, and there's just so much content. And then there's a ton of DLC characters if you'd like to pay for them, but the game on its own is fantastic. The graphics are fantastic. It's amazing to see the facial capture technology with some of your favorite characters being brought to life, because sometimes I think the movies don't really do the characters justice, and it's kind of cool to see that animation mixed up with your custom characters that you worked on. So this is another fantastic game from NetherRealm Studios, and probably, in my opinion, the best fighting game with the most content to come out this year. To be honest with you, for a game that's not open world, this has a surprisingly mind-blowing amount of content, probably as much as Mortal Kombat X. So yeah, well done. I can't wait to see what NetherRealm Studios comes out with next. But yeah, that's number 9. Fantastic game. I would definitely check it out. Alright, for number 8, Yakuza Kiwami. For number 8, I'm picking Yakuza Kiwami. I hope I'm saying that right. Unfortunately, Japanese is not my first native tongue, nor is it my second, but I think this is a fantastic mixture of Shenmue, Streets of Rage, and a little bit of Sleeping Dogs. But I think it's a fantastic game. It has its quirky sense of humor, but it also has like a serious crime drama storyline, and it has a fun fighting mechanic. You'll notice in a lot of these videos the gameplay's terrible, but that's because I'm playing a bunch of different types of games in a short amount of time, and even if I play the same genre, it's probably not gonna look that great. But yeah, I think this is a fantastic game. I think more people should play it. I still think that the Yakuza games are still slightly underground and don't get the kind of coverage that they deserve. I don't know how much coverage that they'll get on my channel, but unfortunately all I can show you is fighting right now. But there's RPG elements. You can go into the clubs and bars and stuff like this. This is a remake of actually the first Yakuza game on the PlayStation 2. So it's a little bit more basic, even though it has some upgraded elements from other Yakuzas with the fighting systems, more places to visit, obviously updated graphics. Even though Yakuza 0 takes place before Yakuza Kiwami, I think that this is actually a better game to start at. And I think with Yakuza 0, they assume that you played the other Yakuza games, even though it's a prequel. So I think this is a good entry point, because it's not as overwhelming with its features and stuff like that. I think the story is engaging, and even though there's a prequel to this game, I feel like this game treats you like you're playing the series for the first time, and I think it's a blast, and I would highly recommend it, and I would highly check it out, as well as the other games in the series. And Yakuza 6 is coming out in 2018. This year has been amazing with games. My voice just cracked there. I apologize. But yeah, next year too is gonna be crazy. It was hard to make this list, but yeah, I definitely recommend this game and check it out. I'm sorry I couldn't show you more variety of this game, but this game is just so huge and everything's like spread out. And crazy enough, this is one of the smaller ones. So if you just want to get into the series, I would definitely recommend starting at this. But yeah, it's a fantastic game if you like that quirky Sega sense of humor, and if you enjoyed Shenmue back in the day, or the Streets of Rage brawler games, or even Sleeping Dogs. It's like all those things meshed up into one game with light RPG elements, but it's pretty linear about where you need to go and stuff like that. But it's kind of cool how you can level up specific aspects of your characters, yada yada yada. But I definitely recommend this game. Number 7, Dishonored 2. And for number 7, we have Dishonored 2. I unfortunately have not had the pleasure of finishing this game, but I feel like I played enough of it to recommend it as number 7. This is a fantastic follow-up. There's actually a sequel to this called like The Death of the Outsider. Isn't this bad? I actually own the game, but I decided to do this commentary without actually doing some research. But I mostly played as Emily because I played as Corvo in the first game. I actually got the good ending, surprisingly enough, with stealth. Like playing as Emily, I've been less stealthy and have killed quite a lot of people. I feel like the battle system in this game works a lot better than in the first game, but it might be in my imagination. But you have the choice of playing Corvo or Emily, Corvo's daughter, and each of them have different powers. And the design, the art design's really cool. The city's a place you want to explore. There's so many little hidden notes and stuff like that that you can read and research about the world. Like there's so much life into it, and it's just aesthetically pleasing world, even though it's really grimy. It has this pastel look that I really like, and I think it's a fantastic follow-up. One thing I will say is when they were previewing this game, they made it look like you could go anywhere. That's not necessarily true, but I will say a lot of times you'll do something and you'll happen to look and there might be 3 other ways you could have saw you were able to do something a different way, or you saw that you could have done something like 2 to 3 other different ways, which is really cool. Which not only do you have another character to play as with a different ending, there's different ways of doing it, so that adds a tremendous amount of replay value. Unfortunately, when this game came out last November, it did not do well, so even if you get it, I don't know how much it'll help out the company. But as for you, it's a game I can recommend. I think it's fantastic, and I think it's enjoyable and worth your time. I haven't finished it yet, but I have no doubts from the little bit of extra time I need to put on it, the game will be fantastic. And then I have a whole nother character to play as. And a lot of these games, I don't know how good the voucher is, but actually comes with a voucher that lets you get the first remastered version for free on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One that also contains the DLC. So if you can get that one, the coupon's still good. It's definitely a great deal. The game on its own is fantastic as well, and a world worth exploring. You might not like it if you don't like slower paced stealth games. It's not a run and gun type of game, but if you like to take your time and take in the world and stuff like that, it's highly recommended, and that's why I chose it. Number 6, Wolfenstein II The New Colossus. For number 6, Wolfenstein II The New Colossus. fantastic follow-up to Wolfenstein The New Order. Now, I'm not going to shit you. I still think The New Order is the superior game as far as level design and pacing goes, but this game has a lot of cool elements, and I feel like it is a great follow-up to Wolfenstein The New Order. So yeah, there's that. This game is a lot more story focused. Apparently that turns off a lot of people, but I feel like the first one was. One thing it's kind of a turn off for this game is there's a lot of forced stealth sections, which is fine, but when you get caught, like, it's almost like a game over with some of the enemies they throw at you until you actually find like the officer that you need to take out to be able to turn off the alarm. But as far as that, it's great. You can upgrade your weapons. There's different parts. Once you finish the game, you actually can pick and redo the things that you didn't do. Tons of hidden stuff, kind of like Dishonored. There's all these little papers and records and everything that you can learn about the world, which is a very interesting world. The story's super engaging. Sometimes I feel like the game doesn't know whether it wants to be a science fiction game, a comedy, or a serious drama. It has a unique tone to it, which I think in its way can turn off some people and be very interesting in other ways, but I think it's a fantastic game. The gunplay is spot on. There's always these awesome moments. You always want to see where you're going next, and I can't wait till the third of the Wolfenstein The New Order trilogy comes out. It's a fantastic game, and if you haven't played it yet and you like shooters, you're really wasting your time. You should get on that. Great game. Can't recommend it enough. Number 5, Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice. For number 5, I chose Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice, which is an awesome game. Now, this game isn't gonna blow you away as far as gameplay wise goes. You've pretty much seen it all before, although I feel like the visual puzzles are somewhat unique unless you play games like Myst or something like that. But I just feel like going through Senua's journey, this game really is about mental illness, but you can almost play it without even knowing that. Like, you learn so much about Norse mythology and stuff like that. It's really interesting, at least to someone like me who's like interested in different faiths and stuff like that, and it goes into detail about the Norse mythology and the different gods and the different worlds. But at the same time, I feel like this is a game that really benefits from having a really emotional female character. I feel like men are somewhat more reserved in their emotions typically. It's one of the reasons. It's just how we're brought up to act. I mean, it's not all the time, but that happens to be the case. So I feel like the actress that they got to play Senua, I think does a fantastic job, and you actually can see the pain, the confusion, and everything in her face. Like, since L.A. Noire, I think this is the best facial motion capture that I've ever seen, and this is like a $30 game, and I think it's worth $60. Unfortunately, you only can buy it digitally, but if they came out with a physical copy, I would buy it in a heartbeat. This is also probably the most aesthetically pleasing game I've seen use the Unreal Engine 4 engine or Unreal Engine 4. Yeah, I think that's it. Most of the games I've seen use this engine are like low budget games or fighting games for the most part. I've never played Gears of War 4, so I can't tell you how awesome that looks. It actually looks pretty good, but when you're walking through the world and you see the ocean and going in and out, and it creates the foam and just all the elaborate stuff, it blows my mind what they were able to do with like a smaller budget, but they were trying to go for AAA aesthetics. But just the journey of her story and the voices in her head and stuff that talk to her. The battle system is actually really fun. The puzzles are visually interesting. The environment's visually interesting. Her hallucinations, the voices in her head, and the storytelling, all awesome. The mythology. I absolutely love this game. It took me by surprise. I thought I was going to enjoy it, but I didn't think I would love it, and I really do. This is a fantastic game, and if you're not into a study as somebody with psychosis, just playing it as somebody in this sort of Nordic mythology kind of world, I think is awesome, and I think it's worth playing, and that's why it's on my list, because I recommend it. I don't need to keep on saying the same things over again. Next, number 4, Nier Automata. Alright, for number 4, Nier Automata. This is another game I have not yet to finish, but I feel like I've played enough to recommend it all the way up to number 4, believe it or not. But I think this is a fantastic game. It's like gosh, this is like the hardest game to explain or describe. If you played the first Nier game on the PlayStation 3 or Xbox 360, you might have a better idea. But it's like a hack and slash game slash bullet hell shooter slash side scroller slash behind the spaceship Star Fox third person shooting game slash RPG slash sandbox open world game. Now, when I say open world, it's less open world than you think. There's more like narrow passages that go into like larger hubs, but it's super creative. The music is some of the best game music I've heard in quite some time. The sense of humor and the story is really out there. It's bizarre. There's nothing else like it. The gameplay is really smooth and responsive. Square actually got Platinum to help work on this one, so the battle system is like on point. If you're a fan of Bayonetta or Metal Gear Rising, you'd probably really appreciate this game quite a bit. But it's fantastic. I love the designs. I love the story. I love the artwork. You'll play this game, and after you're done, you'll start thinking about playing it again, because there's really not a game that satisfies this type of gameplay. And I'm not going to go too much into the story, but to give you roughly an idea, though it's not going to help because the story is so bizarre when you really get into it. But essentially, you're like androids that are sent to Earth. Humans are like living on the moon. Your androids sent to Earth like after the apocalypse, and machines have kind of taken over, and there's like aliens that were there at one point and all this other stuff, and you're inadequately dressed. It's bizarre. You're like this android that's dressed up like a porcelain doll that has like a sword that's taller than she is, and you're just cutting the shit out of everything, and she's just so apathetic, and it's great. And then you're like with this emotional sidekick android that doesn't really quite understand why you're apathetic. You're just all about the mission. He's like, oh, why don't we listen? Why don't we do this? Anyway, fantastic game. I love it. I hope more people play it. Although I heard it's doing pretty well, but I don't personally know a lot of people that played it, but if you get a chance, I would definitely check it out if you like RPGs or hack and slash games. There's a lot to do, and once you beat the game, you're not really beating it. There's other endings. There's story each time you beat it, and there's actually a time progression, so it's more unique than like a game plus mode where you're doing the same shit exactly all over again. The game actually changes. You're actually going further into the game. Like, ironically, when you die the first time, that's actually considered one of the endings, but in order to get the whole story, I don't even think you need to finish every little thing. But I haven't finished every little thing, so I only can base that on things that I read before I did this. But yeah, I definitely recommend Nier Automata. Hopefully I say that right. I've heard so many people pronounce that so many different ways, but I think I went on Google or something to look out how to officially pronounce it. Unfortunately, the person or the thing that pronounces it is a robot, so they probably don't know how to say it right either. But anyway, I recommend this game. Number 3, Batman, a Telltale story, or Telltale game. Should have did better research. So for number 3, this kind of took me by surprise. I'm a huge fan of Batman, but I was like, oh, Telltale's Batman. I mean, it's probably going to be like a Telltale game with Batman. What I didn't expect them to do was take such a mature route with it, which it's even more mature than the Arkham games, which I thought was a pretty mature interpretation, and I love that it takes place in its own universe, so anybody's fair game. Like, people that are still alive in other universes could be killed off in this universe, and there's unique takes and stuff like that. I mean, I won't lie to you, there's choices that you make and that can change the story ultimately, and that's where the interactivity comes. But with the fighting and stuff like that, it's all quick time scenes, and that might turn people off. But I'm a big comic reader. I love reading the Batman comics, so this was right up my alley. I absolutely love it. I love the newer look of the Telltale games where it's cel shaded, but it also has the glossy look of like a non-cel shaded game. I think it looks fantastic, and I thoroughly enjoyed myself in the more mature tones. Like, if you get this for your kid, be forewarned that this definitely is a mature game. Like, people get their brains blown out and you'll see their eyeballs pop out of their head. It has the same gore level as the Walking Dead games, and people curse and stuff like that. So if you're thinking it's like the cartoon show Batman, which is fantastic if we're talking about the 1992 animated series and the seasons that go on beyond that, but this is more like Arkham Knight dark, but then even darker after that. But yeah, most of the interactivity is going to come from your choices and the order you do things, and the detective work, which is, I guess, their version of puzzles. But all the action is going to be through quick time events. If you don't like those, that might turn you off. But if you don't mind those sorts of things and having some control of some of the best, one of the best, I'm gonna say best Batman movies that I've personally seen, in my opinion, then this game should be you, especially if you love the Batman character. I've started playing Season 2 a bit, and it seems just as awesome as Season 1. And you can get this on disc, but it's a Season Pass disc, so you might be better off just downloading it on a sale, unless Telltale like releases like a disc that has everything on it, kind of like what they're doing I think the week of this recording with the Walking Dead games. But yeah, I definitely recommend the Telltale Batman games, especially the first one, which is the only one I'm covering in this top 10 list because I haven't played enough, and they haven't even finished Season 2. So Season 1 is awesome, and you don't need to wait for Season 2 to come out. This story is complete. Like, it doesn't leave off on, like, there might be like a cliffhanger or things are left open, but it's not like, oh, I gotta play the next episode to see what happens. Like, all the loose ends are pretty much tied. So definitely recommend this game. Probably my favorite Telltale game so far. I think the one next to that would probably be Wolf Among Us. But yeah, definitely check this out if you love Batman or just love Telltale adventure games that are simple enough that you can play it. But like I said, if you don't like quick time events, that's the one thing I think that might turn you off away from this game, especially if it's just something that doesn't compute. Some people just aren't good at those types of things. But yeah, definitely recommend it. Number 2, Tom Clancy's Wildlands. Number 2 is Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Wildlands. Why they're still using the Tom Clancy's name after he's been long dead, I have no idea. This is another game I haven't finished, but the reason why I haven't finished it is because there's so much shit to do, and there's like a season pass, which I haven't even downloaded because there's so much shit to do in this one. It's like, what's the point? I don't know if I'll ever get to it, but that's the great thing. This is the best pick up and play go-to game if you don't have a lot of time to do something and just want to get a mission done or go a little bit further that I've ever played. It's kind of advertised as a multiplayer game, but you'll do fine by yourself. I've heard a lot of people being disappointed with this game or saying that it's boring and generic. I don't know what the hell they're talking about. I love the fact that I can just pick up and play it. I can modify my gun all the way down to every single little component. I love being able to be on this gigantic fucking island. This might be bigger than the island on Just Cause 3, which was huge. Like, and the draw distance is crazy far in this game, and there's always stuff to do. I'll be bored, and I'm like, I only have this amount of time. Let me put in Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Wildlands. I'll pull up the map, zoom out. I'll see one thing I want to do, click on it, so it'll tell me where to go. Find the nearest helicopter, boat, car, or whatever. Get my squad in. And just go do that mission, complete it, turn it off. This is the best pick up and play game, that sandbox I've played in quite some time. I don't know if I'll ever finish it because I just have so much fun like exploring the world, and this game deserves more praise. This was not like the mediocre game, in my opinion, that everybody's making it out to be. I feel like if you like shooters, tactical games, or sandbox games, you deserve it to yourself to at least try this. I think there's a demo on PlayStation Network, but this is a fantastic game. It's a little bit overwhelming when you first play it with all the menus and everything. You might not know what to do, but once you kind of figure out how simple it actually is, because it's somewhat of a simple game in disguise, it just has a lot of options for customization. And the UI is a little bit fancy, like with the story and stuff like that. And the next person you need to go after, that could be a little bit overwhelming. I get it. But once you figure it out, this is probably the best pick up and play fun game that has great components. It's absolutely beautiful on the PlayStation 4 Pro. And when I played it on just the regular 1080p setting, it looked fantastic as well. It's a beautiful game. I imagine it looks great on the original Xbox One. I'm not even comparing it to the X. I haven't even seen an X in person beside the box behind glass, so I really can't comment on that. Of course, I'm sure the PC version looks the best, but I feel like whatever you play this on, it's going to be a great game, and I can't recommend it enough. Every time I pick up and play it, I instantly remember why I was playing it, and even though I might not ever finish it, I've already gotten my money's well worth out of it. So I highly recommend Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Wildlands, longest name ever. That's not some weird Japanese RPG. And number 1, drum roll. This was kind of like a Chewbacca thing going on. Anyway, I don't know if this is going to be on anyone's top 1 list, but Sonic Mania. I know, Sonic Mania, number 1. How could this be possible? This is just some crappy $20 game on PlayStation Network that they don't even have a physical copy of. It's like the same levels, but no, it's so much more, at least to somebody who's a nostalgic Sonic fan that like grew up with the Sega Genesis Sonic games. This is like the Sonic 4 that we wanted. There is a Sonic 4 on PlayStation 3. I think the Wii, I think it was on the Wii. I don't know. And the Xbox 360. That one was crappy, to be honest with. I mean, it wasn't bad, but it was average at best. It was like this weird glossy look, but Sega finally let people who are fans actually develop a game. So this is like basically an officially licensed fan game, and I love that they use some of the same assets. So you'll have levels that look familiar and you're like, I already played this level. The joke's on you because the level structure is completely different, and there's so many multiple not branching, but there's so many like different paths. Like if you fall down a cliff, like if it was Super Mario, you'd be dead. No, you fall down a cliff and you land on like another ramp and you go through the level a completely different way, which is awesome. And then the second part of the world, you get this awesome remix. Like whoever is doing the music, like there's like 20 people, less than that, but there's a bunch of people before the game starts. It shows you how many people are involved in the game. Whoever is doing the remixes of the music in this game is fantastic. And then so when you get to the second part of the world, like the assets are like remixed and there's new things in the level that weren't in the original game, and that's awesome. And the graphics are like if they're on 32x as well. There's scaling and everything. The animations in Sonic are a lot better. The animations of Robotnik when he's pushing the button, everything has more frames, but it's subtle enough where you don't notice it unless you're actually looking for it. And it just feels like this came out of a time capsule. Like maybe this would have been on the Sega Saturn in the 32x. It's an amazing game. The original game, the original, completely original levels are freaking amazing. Like when you're at the TV station and all this stuff. I wish there was more original levels, but I love the remixed old levels as well. The sound is amazing, and nostalgia is really making this #1 for me. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I'm not a fool, but this made me feel like a 9-year-old kid all over again, and there's not a lot of things that can do that, and that's just awesome. And I'm so thankful that there was a game that actually kind of captured like that joy, pure joy of gaming that I had when I wasn't as familiar, because when I used to play the Sonic games, there weren't a lot of games out, so those are like the best things, the things I look forward to. I remember when Sonic 3 came out and I ran to the video store and tried to find it, and it was all rented out, and I had to be put on this waiting list, and I got these magazines and I could just look at the pictures and stuff like that, and I was like, oh, I have to play this game, and it was amazing. And it just took me back to the time. This game was like a time capsule, or a time machine for me, and I feel like for other people around my age, like in their 30s, that grew up the same way, I think that it's going to be super special to them too if they love the Sonic franchise. To somebody who just likes 2D platformers, I don't think you can get much better. If you have no care about Sonic whatsoever, if you don't care about Sonic whatsoever, I think this is still a great game. Sonic Mania, this is another one. If they ever came out with a physical copy, I would get in a heartbeat if I could. #1, I know this is such a curveball. There's so many great games that came out this year, but when I think about the game that I had the most fun with, the game that like I had a big ass smile on my face, it was Sonic Mania, and I can't recommend this game enough for anyone. And it's also a game that's great to introduce like younger people to. Like I know people around my age are starting to have kids and stuff like that, and families, and so it's kind of like, this is the kind of game that I used to play when I grew up. So it's like a game for like people of all ages, and it's awesome. The platforming isn't your thing, it's not gonna win you over. If you're completely against like mascot, like animal characters, it's probably not gonna win you over. But it's such a weird combination of old and new, and it's fantastic, and I can't recommend it enough, and that's why it's my #1. Hope you enjoyed this list, and I hope you're all doing well, and back to the shitty version of me talking on film. Alright, you might be wondering why the camera angle changed. That's simply because I was so stressed out about making this video after I listed #1, which was the amazing Sonic Mania, with probably dog sounds in the background, because whenever I record, for some reason, it's an invitation for all the animals to come in here and party. But anyway, yeah, I went to go pack up the camera, and I was like, oh, I didn't sign off in any way. So sorry about the sucky lighting. You always can donate, so sucky lighting, donating, I would go with the sucky lighting. But if you want to donate while you're at it, one of those huge expensive cameras, like these grungy kids I see outside that look like they haven't showered in 15 years, have like filming skate videos. Maybe they afforded that camera because they saved up on a lot of soap. I don't know. It must have took a long time because soap's fairly cheap. But anyway, I don't know whether you guys celebrate the holidays or not, but hope you guys have happy whatever, and hopefully this list was somewhat helpful. Hopefully the video was somewhat entertaining. Like, maybe, I don't know, you had nothing to do and you were on YouTube and you saw all these videos and you're like, oh, I didn't see this asshole's video, let me put it on.
If you want to, like, comment, and subscribe! Thanks for watching!